glass of water, the front left.
I've got some coffee. What is your name?
I'm Jamie. Good morning. My name is Jamie Frazier. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm honored to welcome you to the Ethical Society of St. Louis. We are an ethical humanist community where people come together to explore big questions, live with intention, and work toward a more just and compassionate world. We are in our spring series, Empowered Together, where we are exploring what it means to affirm human dignity and build a community where everyone belongs. In today's platform, we'll explore how people navigate change, question long-held beliefs, and seek connection and meaning in new ways. Through music, storytelling, and conversation, Steve Perron will share his personal journey from devout Christianity to secular humanism, while also reflecting on the broader cultural shifts shaping religious life in America today. As part of our Empowered Together series, this morning invites us to consider how communities can make space for honest questioning, personal transformation, and belonging across different life experiences. It reminds us that human dignity includes the freedom to grow, rethink, and continue searching for meaning alongside one another. As we begin today, please take a moment to silence your devices so we can be fully present with one another. Thank you. Each week, we share our youth education core values as a reminder of the commitments that guide our community across generations. These values reflect how we strive to learn, grow, and live together at the Ethical Society of St. Louis, encouraging curiosity, compassion, responsibility, and respect for one another and the wider world. Our youth programming is on summer hiatus, so I will be reading the core values today. Every person is important and unique. Every person deserves to be treated fairly and kindly. I can learn from everyone. I am a part of this earth. I cherish it and all the life upon it. I learn from the world around me by using my senses, mind, and feelings. I am a member of the world community, which depends on the cooperation of all people for peace and justice. I can learn from the past to build for the future. I am free to question. I am free to choose what I believe. I accept responsibility for my choices and actions. I strive to live my values. Oh, thank you. Our next segment, Stories of Ourselves, provides an opportunity to connect more deeply with one another by sharing our stories. This morning, we will hear from member Samantha White. Please join me in welcoming Samantha.
Good morning, lovely folks. My name is Samantha White. My pronouns are she and her, and I am here today to share part of my story as a 4-year Ethical Society of St. Louis board member. Thank you. I have been exceptionally fortunate to serve in this volunteer position, and I have profound gratitude for the trust that the membership has placed in me throughout my years of service. As I reflect back over the last few years, I am reminded of the immense amount of work that Ethical Society lay leaders contribute to our community every day to keep us vibrant and thriving. The growth of our movement and the health of our congregation is reliant on members and friends stepping up and leading in respectful and productive ways. Thank you, everyone, for your service. As a reminder, my term as a board member actually concludes this Wednesday, May 20th, at the annual meeting. Don't forget to be here in the auditorium at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. The Ethical Society is my home away from home, and I hope the same is true for all of you. I was reminded often during my board service that as a home, the Ethical Society requires investment in our time, our energy, our money, and our passion. Each member is responsible for putting forth the effort to maintain our relationship with the society and the people within it. Building healthy relationships is not always easy, but it is worthwhile. Human relationships are messy, And my board service has shown me all the many ways that that statement is true. I have felt love, sadness, gratitude, loss of respect, immense joy, frustration, exhaustion, and hope. There were more times during my board service than I care to share that I felt disillusioned with people at the Ethical Society, because there are individuals in this community who, over and over again, did not lead with curiosity, and instead demonstrated that they believed that their way and idea was the best and only way to do something. My board service sometimes felt like I was working 2 full-time jobs, and only one of them was paid and treated me as competent. I felt disrespected and underappreciated. Individuals in this community continue, despite my 12 years of active service, to not know my name, and they, mostly older males, look at me and consistently and repeatedly call me something other than Samantha. And that is hard, and it doesn't make me feel valued. It also makes me wonder how many other people experience the same feeling when they visit this place, and now how I have potentially contributed to that same feeling in others. In exit interviews with resigning members, they report that they are leaving the society because of interpersonal relationships. As a community without a supreme being that tells us how to act, we are responsible for how we treat one another and the community that we build to make it truly welcoming and inclusive. The positives outweigh the bad, though. Someone would send a lovely note or stop me in the hallway and say something so kind and so thoughtful and so clearly caring about the future of the society and me as a person that every time I was reminded about my feelings of hope. As my board service concludes, hope is the emotion that has resonated the most. I have a lot of hope for this society because it really does include such an amazing group of thoughtful and caring folks. And there is a core group of people stepping up and doing foundational work every day to make this place thrive. My hope is that I will see more of that work from a larger subset of the society in the years ahead. One of the other reasons I have hope is that the board, over my 4 years of service, has intentionally and thoughtfully worked to make this society safe for our staff, members, and friends. We have held interventions. We have spoken from the Ethical Society stage about our concerns. We have answered hundreds of emails, both in written text and in one-on-one conversations. We created the community agreements, and most recently, we established a new policy, the policy to promote ethical behavior, for enforcement of those agreements, and as a reminder to our members and friends that being accountable for our words and our actions is important and healthy. A key part of the new policy is the creation of a mediation team, which we need members of our congregation to step up and lead. If that is something that you are interested in or have experience with, please talk to me. Some of you might remember that my very first opening words in June of 2014 were actually also about building relationships, service, and giving back. It's a pretty consistent theme in my life, and I expect many of yours. Thank you to the individuals here in this room and throughout the city and world who have served the society so well over the years. I am grateful for each of you. If you are new or have been taking a break from leadership, I encourage you to get involved. Join a team or a group. Plan an event. Contribute to this community in ways that will be positive and meaningful for you and for others. Service to self and service to others is foundational to my life at the Ethical Society, and it is one of the many ways that I invest deeply in my home away from home and keep my hope front of mind. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Samantha, for sharing your story today and for your years of service on the board to our community. We are very grateful. Before our main address, let's pause and reset our attention. Allow your body to release any tension you may be holding, and give your mind permission to set aside what can wait as we share one silent minute to prepare ourselves to listen clearly and reflect thoughtfully. And now it is my pleasure to introduce our speaker and musician this morning, Steve Perron. Steve is an Emmy Award-winning journalist with 15 Emmy Awards to his name and a nationally recognized singer-songwriter who was named the 2022 Golden Pick winner at the world-famous Bluebird Cafe in Nashville. Before his career in journalism and music, Steve spent 7 years in the seminary, fully committed to becoming a Catholic priest. Since then, his journey has taken him in a different direction, and now he identifies as a secular humanist. Steve performs throughout the St. Louis region as a solo artist and in musical duos, and he also hosts one of the longest-running open mic nights in the area. He and his wife have been married for 45 years, and together they have 2 children and 2 grandchildren. Please join me warmly in welcoming Steve Perron.
Thank you. This is really an honor for me to be here. I didn't think I was going to be nervous, but the room is filled. You may not know this. The room is filled with a whole bunch of really good songwriters and musicians. And so now I'm a little nervous. And it's like a Channel 4 reunion here. There's so many Channel 4 people here. She told you a little bit about me. What she did not tell you is also important. I'm not a Bible scholar. I'm not a religious scholar. I think I know a lot about it. And I'm also not a public speaker, so this could be interesting. This is my first time at the Ethical Society. I just found out a little while ago this is the largest Ethical Society congregation in the United States. That's amazing. And this is a day of first. That was some first information. This is my first stop on my national book tour. In a couple of weeks, I'll be in Kansas City and then in Indianapolis, a little bit after that in Nashville. And this book here, What Do We Do with All the Churches, is the first book. I think a lot of the stuff I'm going to be talking about today, you all are already going to know about. I'm going to talk about it anyway, but in this growing field of faith deconstruction, humanism, and free thought, this is the first book of its kind that's built around original songs, 13 of my original songs. If you get the book, and I'll be downstairs afterwards, if you get the book, there's a link in there where you can go and listen to recordings of all the songs. I was telling the tech guys here beforehand that I feel like I have made it now because I'm using one of these things. I've always wanted to do that. Here we go. This is, let me start at the beginning, close to it. This is me on the far left, 1973, Santa Barbara, California, in the mountains over Santa Barbara. What a wonderful freaking year that was. I'm going to zoom in a little bit, just because I like to look at the hair. And that is, I really like that hair. And So I left home 1 month after my 14th birthday. Went away, entered the seminary, didn't come back for good for 7 years. And I want to state up front, my 7 years in the seminary were wonderful. It was a wonderful experience. It helped to make me who I am. But even in the seminary, I started to have, there were little cracks and little doubts and questions. But I remained, even after I left the seminary and got married, I remained a practicing Catholic for about another 20 years. And the reason for that is because change is really, really hard. And I explain that in one of the songs in my book, which has to do with these things. Does anybody know what those are? Woolly worms, of course you know what they are. If you live here, you know what they are. Woolly worms. About 4 or 5 years ago, I was riding my bike. That comes up a lot, by the way. Riding my bike right here on Clayton Road in the fall, and I saw a couple woolly worms, one woolly worm on the road, so I just stopped, straddled my bike, and watched him. And I started thinking about how people used to think that you could forecast the winter by looking at the length of the middle band on a woolly worm. In fact, when I first got into the television business, Ray Preston and Lisa Manzo were here, former anchors and reporters. I don't know if you guys ever had to go out and do this. They used to send us to the zoo to go talk to the entomologist and do the woolly worm story. And I thought, well, that's silly. But change is hard, and that's what this song, Woolly Worm, is about. And I want to let you know, many of the songs I write, they start out one way, and then they take a hard turn somewhere, which is common. The first verse, Woolly Worms. The second verse, based on a discussion, a conversation with my wife, who's back there in the last row. Raise your hand, Debbie. She won't do it. There she is. And it wasn't really, she's really important in this story, by the way. It wasn't really a conversation. And then the last verse takes a hard turn. Out riding my bike on a cool fall day, a big woolly worm came crawling my way. Showed a whole lot of black, just a little bit of brown. You know what that means? That means a long, hard winter's coming on. That's what everybody says. There must be something to it. That's what everybody does. I guess I ought to do it. That's how everybody thinks. I guess I will too. Doesn't make any sense, but it must be true. And this is the verse that was inspired by my wife. True story. Going out to a party just the other night. Put on my party clothes, thought I looked all right. But the wife said, no, you ain't going that way. That ain't how the cool dudes dress today. Well, that's what everybody says. There must be something to it. That's what everybody does. Guess I ought to do it. That's how everybody thinks. I guess I will too. Doesn't make any sense, but it must be true. 'Cause that's what everybody says, what everybody does, how everybody thinks, and they do it because always done it like this, always done it this way. Doesn't make any sense, but we do it anyway. And then the last verse, this is where it takes a turn. I didn't see this coming when I started writing this. Sunday morning, the church bells ring. I don't get out of bed, I ain't doing anything. Preacher says, don't worry, I'll pray for you, son. 'Cause I know for a fact, my God's the one. But that's what everybody says. That's what everybody does. That's how everybody thinks. That doesn't make any sense. That's what everybody says. It must be something to it. That's what everybody does. Don't think I'm gonna do it. That's how everybody thinks. Well, that won't do. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe it ain't true. Doesn't make any sense. Maybe it ain't true. So at the time I wrote that song, I had no idea about doing this book. But here's how this book came to be. 3 years ago, another bike ride. I've probably written 300 or 400 songs. Half of them were written on bike rides, at least starting. So I live in Brentwood. One of my usual rides is through Webster into Kirkwood back. 3 years ago in the summer, I'm riding my bike out of Brentwood. I go into Lockwood, and I see this. I know some of you are going to recognize these things. Peace United Church of Christ on Lockwood. And I saw that there, and I went, oh my gosh, that church has been there 100 years. It's a big, beautiful stone church. And that really, it rocked me when I saw that. But I kept riding. And I went down Lockwood, went up Kirkham, and then where Lockwood heads into, I think it becomes Adams. And then by that Lutheran church, and I think it's Westboro Country Club, not positive, I see this. That's the former Webster Groves Christian Church, I think is the name of it. It was purchased by the country club. They're going to turn it into pickleball courts. But they're going to keep the tower. See the tower in the back, right there? Which is nice. They're going to keep that. So I rode into Kirkwood, rode around Kirkwood, and this time I came back through Kirkwood and Webster, as opposed to coming back up to like Toledo and stuff. And then I'm going down Glen Avenue, coming out of Webster. And this is all on the same bike ride. I see this. Glen Avenue and Fairview. And I'm seeing all three, and I'm thinking, uh-oh, what are we going to do with all these churches? This is a huge, huge issue in Europe right now, by the way. They've got all these massive cathedrals and churches. They don't know what to do with them because nobody's going anymore. By the time I got home, I had 1 or 2 verses of a song in my head that I'm going to play for you now. Once again, the first part of the song is about churches. The second half of the song takes a completely different turn that I had no idea, did not see coming when I wrote it, and I'll explain where that comes from when I'm finished. This is What'll We Do with All the Churches? What'll we do with all the churches? When folks stop coming through the door. What's gonna come of all the pews when no one's sitting there no more? What's gonna happen to all the preachers when there's no one there left to lecture to? No more priests, no more pastors, here and now and ever after. No religion dogging you. Sometimes I just can't help but wonder when our church-going days are through. Up there in the holy yonder, the great big God beyonder, what will Jesus do? And where we gonna put all the prayer books, the candles, statues from the ceiling to the floor? How we gonna fill up all our Sundays? Well, maybe we'll have time to love each other more at the Ethical Society. Sometimes I just can't help but wonder when our church-going days are through. Up there in the holy yonder, the great big God beyonder, what will Jesus do? Here's where it takes a turn. Well, I think he just might crack a smile and say, this is what I wanted from the start. I tried to tell you all the while, you don't need no church, just hold me in your heart. See, I don't need no big cathedral made of mortar, brick, and stone. I'm not a king looking for worship, I don't wear a crown, don't have a throne. So don't you worry about them churches as they slowly disappear. When they're all gone one by one and the genuflecting's done, don't worry, I'll be here. Ain't gonna need no second coming. I'm already here. Moving over here a little bit. The last three verses, yeah, they're about Jesus. And some people might hear that and say, well, I thought you're a secular humanist. I am. That's how I identify now. But Jesus is a big part of who I am. I can't say I'm Catholic any more than I can say I am not French, Canadian, and German. I just am. And I grew up in such a devout Catholic home, 7 years in the seminary, another 15 years or so. It's just a part, you know, a lot of that stuff I'm not going to get into the details about what I do believe or don't believe, you know, because I know there's a wide variety of beliefs in the room here. But it's still a part of me. So back to the churches. Again, I know I'm talking to a crowd here today that's familiar with what's going on with religious affiliation and belief in America in the last 25 years. If you don't, let me show you a couple of numbers. I'm going to refer to the Gallup polling agency and the Pew polling agency, two of the most respected and longest established polling services in America. And by the way, the numbers I'm going to show you in the next 3 or 4 slides, there are Christian groups that do national surveys and polling as well. Their surveys on these questions come up with exactly the same numbers. These numbers are not coming up because there's some secular bias in Gallup and poll. 1937 was the first time that Gallup took one of their religious surveys, and at that time, 73% of Americans said, I belong to a house of worship. This just used to be the way it was in America. Look at 1999. Almost no change at all. 2021. This was national news when Gallup released this in 2021. The number of Americans who say, I belong, not saying I don't believe, but saying I belong to a church for the first time in U.S. history, dropped below 47%. That was seismic. Let's go to Pew. They like to ask people, how many of you taking this survey consider yourself a nun? I'm sure most of you know what a nun is. That's a person who checks on a survey or census, I'm none of the above religions. I am no religion. 2009, it was 17%. 2025, 29%. Something really big happened. Oh. Maybe I should have talked a little bit first. I'm guessing that many of you who are aware of this have opinions and ideas as to how and why this is happening. There's a lot of analysis of this, and a lot of people come up with a lot of the same things, okay? But I don't think anybody's really put it together the way I do in this book. I'm sure that's wrong, but anyway. 2000, as we saw, religiosity is a term, it's a term I'm going to use a lot, holding steady. Something happened in 2001 that I think is what it shook, you know what it is. Were you raising your hand? Oh, I thought you were. What happened in 2001? 9/11. And I'm not the only one who believes that this was a game changer for belief in America. A lot of Americans said, I was one of them, even though by this point I was already pretty much away, was how could God allow that to happen? It was big. 2004, Sam Harris publishes and releases The End of Faith. Within the next 3 years, Sam Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Dawkins, and Daniel Dennett all release books that attack faith, belief, and religion. They all become global bestsellers. They're still, and people are still buying them. It sparks what is now common, this wave of debates, the debates between the atheist and the believer, which are now so common. They're called the Four Horsemen of the New Atheism. Huge, very huge. This is where it starts to get kind of fun. 2004, Facebook launches. I consider that the birth of social media. Also 2004. According to the International Podcasting Day website, podcasting really began in 2004. 2005, YouTube launches. When I was a kid, a teenager in school, if I had questions about atheism or questions about who wrote the Bible, are there contradictions in the Bible, can I believe this stuff, are there alternative points of view, it was really, really hard to get knowledgeable, honest answers to those questions. Not anymore. But even with all of this, the next thing is what I consider the number one factor in the decline in religion. Something big happened in 2007. Anybody want to try a guess? iPhone. Before that, and there might have been smartphone technology before that. I didn't research that because who cares? This is what changed everything. Before that, yeah, you could go to YouTube, you could podcast, you could Facebook, but you had to be at your computer. You had to have a laptop with you or a tablet. Now it's in your pocket. It's so easy to get information. So that's what I think happened. So that's what I think happened to faith. What happened? Oh, and then religiosity falls below 50%. So what happened to me? 7 years in the seminary. I was very committed. A lot of things happened over the next few years, but there was one incident in the seminary. I think I'm okay on time. I think I can tell this story. Listen, I'm going to tell you a story. I'm not embellishing. I'm not making anything up. What I'm going to tell you happened exactly as I'm telling you. So I was 18 years old. In the second half, a classmate of mine who was from Chicago, George, said, "Hey, I'm driving down to LA. I'm going to visit my cousin. She lives and works down there. Do you want to come?" I don't know why he asked me. I wasn't even close to him. I said, "Sure." So me and him and another guy drove down there. She lived in Hollywood, in the Hollywood Hills, overlooking Sunset Boulevard, in one of those cool apartments or condos. We drive up there. He goes and knocks on the door. His cousin comes to the door. His cousin was more beautiful than that. And so she was a Playboy bunny, but not just any Playboy bunny. She was one of the most beautiful and best Playboy bunnies in the club, that so much so that Hugh Hefner tapped her to be the trainer, the global trainer. So anytime they would open a new club, she would go and train the bunnies. So we're in her condo or apartment, whatever it was, sitting in her front room in her 5-inch deep shag rug, and which was honestly orange and yellow and stuff like that. And I noticed something on her window ledge or her shelf or whatever it was, maybe a mantle, I don't remember. I said, "That's cool, what is that?" It looks like a Grammy Award. It wasn't a Grammy, it was a music box that looked like a Grammy Award. And she goes, "Oh yeah, that's cool," and she pulls it down and shows it to us. And on one side of the base, there was a plaque with her name engraved in it. And we go, "That's cool." And she goes, "Yeah, she goes, I'm dating one of the executives for Capitol Records," and you could see the tower, the famous Capitol Records tower outside her window. And we were at a big gala dinner, and this is how they marked where we were supposed to sit. And, "Well, that's cool." And she goes, "And the guy sitting next to me was so upset because someone took his." And we're like, "Well, why would someone take his?" Because the guy she was sitting next to was John Lennon. So I'm like the biggest Beatles fan in the world. And it was like someone hit me in the head with a baseball bat. I'm sitting in a home in Hollywood Hills with this drop-dead gorgeous woman who hangs out with John Lennon like it's my neighbor. And then we get up to leave, and we get down to our car, and she goes, "Oh, George, I just bought a new car. I wish I could show it to you. It's this neat convertible. I can't because my friend and his girlfriend came by and asked to take it for a drive." That friend was Ringo Starr. And in case you're wondering, so this is early 74. 74 was John Lennon's infamous lost year, where he went to LA, he left Yoko, he's hanging out with that other Asian woman, and him and Harry Nilsson went around and just created havoc at clubs all over LA. 1973 is the year that Ringo Starr moved to Los Angeles. So I know this. Sometimes I wonder, did I make this up? Did I dream this? No, it happened. The reason I tell this story is because this was the first time in my life where I experienced actual doubt about something that was important to me. And that doubt was, do I really want to become a priest? Yeah. Because as we're driving back to Santa Barbara, they were up front. I remember this like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the back with my head leaning against the window, singing the lyrics to the song from the Magical Mystery Tour, Beautiful People. And I'm thinking, I want to be one of the beautiful people. I want to hang out with John Lennon and Ringo Starr and women like that. Because she was, until of course I met my wife, the most beautiful woman I've ever seen. So what happened to me? I stayed in the seminary for 2 more years of what we called philosophy, and then I left. But I still had my faith. I just decided I didn't want to be a priest. A couple of years after I left the seminary, this happened. Oh, I know. April 1981, Debbie and I got married. Debbie, also raised Catholic, no longer practicing Catholic. I don't know if any of you have heard of this, but she was a member of something called the School of Metaphysics, which was started here in Missouri, which I thought was freaky weird. And it created some tension and some really big problems, but I worked through it. And Debbie, I have to skip past this next one because I'm running out of time. But so the significance of that is that by being married to her and living with her, she gave me the space and the permission to ask questions. Had I married some other girl who was still a devout, committed Catholic, I'm convinced I'd be going to Mass every Sunday today. I'd be on all the committees. I'd be man of the year like my dad was at Sacred Heart in Florissant. I just wouldn't believe any of it, honestly. Because in my heart, I think 80% of the people who go to church every Sunday don't really believe it. It's just what we do. But then, here was the first major crack. It's going to lead me to my next song. September 1981, our first child, Christopher, is born. She didn't want me to use this picture. She goes, my boobie is in there. You know, I can't really see it. I think it's a nice picture. So, 2 weeks after Christopher was born, I lost my job. So I'm home for 6 weeks. And one day, just like the other story, I remember this so clearly. I was home, and I had her in my arms, and I'm thinking 2 things. One, this isn't a baby. This is a human being. It's a person. We've birthed a human being. I thought, that's crazy. But then I thought, in the eyes of my faith, I want to use this once. Oh, yes. So cool. I've always wanted to do this. In the eyes of my faith, that baby is a sinner. Was a sinner at the moment of conception and is going to spend his life in eternal torment if at some point he doesn't pronounce some certain words and acknowledge some certain belief and, according to some denominations, get baptized. And my body rocked, and I thought, no. And I'm at a point in my life now where I consider original sin one of the most damaging and dangerous concepts ever conceived by human beings. Which brings me to another one of the songs in my book, Don't Need to Be Set Free. This is the most personal, most emotional song in the book. And by the way, in June, the Humanist magazine is going to be publishing a 2,000-word excerpt from my book. And I sent them 3 or 4 chapters. I said, here, take a look at these. They immediately hit on this one. Oh, we want that one. Don't need to be set free. Once again, the first verse is weird, because at the time, I was thinking about this whole notion of God as a transcendent being. And when you're writing a song, sometimes if you're thinking about something, it forces its way into the song. I see you when I walk. I hear you when I talk. I know that you're around, even though you don't make a sound. So many years I lived in fear, racked with guilt, drowned in tears. And I got up off my bended knee. I have been released. Got no blood washing over me, no veil of tears, no misery, no miracle to deliver me. No, I don't need to be set free. Got no chains binding me. No, I don't need to be set free. Okay, here's the big verse. I used to hold such pain within. Thought I was born with Adam's sin. What kind of world believes that's true? What kind of God does that to you? I've got no blood washing over me, no veil of tears, no agony, no miracle to deliver me. No, I don't need to be set free. Got no chains binding me. No, I don't need to be set free. I'm gonna stop it there. Thank you. Okay, I'm at the point here where I'm going to start wrapping up. Okay, she goes, good. That's good. Okay, just let me see what the other slides are. Oh yeah, I'm kind of like at the end here. I can say the rest of this real easy here. I was going to talk a little bit about how my evolution just continued and continued, but to sum it up, honestly, it's just that over a period of years, I just became more comfortable with accepting the fact that I had questions and I had doubt. And again, mainly because of the woman I'm married to. Had that not been the case, I would have slunk off to a closet somewhere and like hid myself and thought about this stuff. But I didn't have to. And then, like I say in the book, around the year 2000, And I know it's 2000 because that's when our kids should have been confirmed. They should have had their confirmation. And like I write in the book, they just didn't. We just didn't. I don't even know if we talked about it. We just didn't. We just knew. And when I finally made that decision and cast it off, and it was hard. That's one of the recurring themes in this book, which is question, feel free to question, have doubt. And this can really be hard. For me, it was hard. Devout Catholic family, 7 years in the seminary. But once I broke free, I realized an inner peace and certainty greater than anything I'd ever known in my life. And I'm really grateful for that. And it's a wonderful place to be. I don't stress anymore over rules and stuff, and certainly don't stress over theology. Because theology is really, this is my last song. It's the theology rag. I wrote this in 2020, which is, COVID. COVID was raging. I was still working at Channel 4, along with some other people here in the room. And once it blew up and things were locked down, everything went out the window. Kind of like the flood of '93 or the Ferguson incident, where all the rules are gone. Okay, this is all we're covering. And at one of the morning editorial meetings before they sent us all home, I said, hey, you know what we ought to do? We ought to go get a faith leader, get that Christian pastor who does the commercials or the archbishop, and have him bring him into the studio. Let's do an interview about what do you tell people when they say, where's God? I mean, the entire planet is reeling. Thousands, tens of thousands of people dying every day. Where's God? Crickets. We don't like that idea. A couple days later, op-ed in the New York Times by, I believe, the pastor of St. Patrick's Cathedral in New York about exactly this question. And he mentioned something called theodicy, which is a branch of theology which addresses the existence of evil. And I went, I've never heard that. 7 years in the seminary, I've never heard about that. So I wrote a song about all the different branches of theology, or some of them. See how many you can count in this song. I need a cheat sheet for this one. When it comes to loving the Lord, I used to be on board, bent my knee, bowed my head, hallelujah and amen. I memorized his holy word. I loved the Lord. I went to seminary school, learning all the Lord's rules, writing Latin, reading Greek, learned to turn the other cheek. I'd never be the devil's tool. God was cool. Studying the Lord, that's theology. When you make the Lord the law, that's theocracy. When you wonder where God's gone, that's theodicy. He's such a complicated deity. That's why God gave us so much theology. You want to know more about sin? Well, really, who doesn't? Hamartiology will teach you who does and who doesn't, and how those angels get their wings. Angelology will teach you how they fly and sing, and how many can dance on a pin. I'd say about a dozen. And if you wonder how we were saved, there's an ology for that, don't you think there ain't? You can check that out in soteriology. Studying the Lord, that's theology. When you make the Lord the law, that's theocracy. When you wonder where God's gone, that's theodicy. He's such a complicated deity. That's why God gave us so much theology. You got questions about the church? That's ecclesiology. Is the Bible throwing you a curve? You need biblical theology. And don't forget about the humans underneath. we get theological anthropology. And if you're worried, my friend, about how the world will end, well, you can get yourself ready with eschatology. Oh, now you know that the Trinity is one big mystery, but don't you fret, because fortunately, there's an ology for every one of the three. Seriously. Theology proper for God, number one. Christology for his only Son, the Holy Spirit. Well, he's number three. He gets pneumatology, and that's a great big 1, 2, 3 for the Trinity. Oh, there's so much to learn about God. It's a Herculean task. Oops, wrong story. It's a biblical task. It's a lifetime job, but you can get yourself ready with systematic theology. Studying the Lord, that's theology. When you make the Lord the law, that's theocracy. When you wonder where God's gone, that's theodicy. He's such a complicated deity. That's why God gave us so much theology. When you're drowning in misery, crying to God, how can this be? Oh, the answer is plain to see. That's theodicy. It's as easy as 1, 2, 3. Hey, just like the Trinity, except this ain't no mystery. That's theology. So come sing along with me for theology. But wait, is any of this true? To find out what you need to do is take a class in epistemology. It's complicated, but that's theology. Thank you so much. Thanks for being my guinea pigs. What do we do with all the churches? I'll be downstairs. Remember, there's a link to all these songs. Oh, did I do that? You did that. Okay. That's like they're playing the music when you win an Emmy. They start playing the music, you know. All right, wrap it up. I'll be downstairs. Thank you so much. It's been such an honor.
Thank you, Steve, for sharing your music and thoughts with all of us today. We are grateful for what you have brought to our community. Thank you. At the Ethical Society of St. Louis, our mission shapes everything we do, from Sunday platforms to youth programs, music, service, and partnerships in the wider community. Our work is sustained through the generosity of our members and friends. Today's collection supports the ongoing life of the Ethical Society and allows us to continue offering programs, gatherings, and opportunities to live our values together. Most members of our community support the Ethical Society through regular monthly giving or an annual gift. For those who'd like to contribute in person today, the collection baskets and the QR code on the screen are simple ways to participate. Every contribution helps bring our mission to life. If you'd like to stay connected to our community, we invite you to subscribe to our weekly newsletter for updates on upcoming programs, service opportunities, and ways to get involved. And now for some announcements. Recently, the Dignity and Belonging team shared results from our interactive platform on April 12th. We have put together a survey that takes a deeper dive into how our team can better serve this community. All members and visitors are welcome to participate. The survey typically takes no more than 15 minutes and will be open through May 17th, which is today. Stop by the library table in the Becker Room for the QR code or look for the link in the Weekly Connection email. We thank you for your time and interest in making the Ethical Society a more welcoming and inclusive community. So if you haven't done that, please do. All right, and then tonight, starting at 5:30 in the Becker Room, the Third Sunday Dinner Theater will present 2 short plays, Hate Mail and 5 Times in One Night. Admission is free. Bring something for the potluck. And then finally, join us this Memorial Day weekend for a free community event full of treasure hunting, upcycling, and neighborly fun. Sell, buy, trade, and swap on Sunday, May 24th in the Ethical Society parking lot after platform. That's next Sunday right out here. Volunteers for this event are needed. If you want to help, contact Holly Brubaker. Thank you to Steve Perron for sharing his music, reflections, and personal journey with us this morning. And thank you to Samantha White for sharing your story with our community. Steve's story reminds us that people need spaces where they can ask difficult questions, reflect honestly, and continue growing throughout their lives. They need support and understanding without judgment. Through storytelling, music, and conversation, today's platform invited us to consider how we can help create that kind of community for ourselves and one another. The Ethical Society is a place where human dignity is honored and where people are free to explore meaning, connection, and authenticity together. To honor everyone's unique journey, I hope we can continue to meet one another with kindness, patience, and humility. After platform, we invite you downstairs for coffee and conversation. You can learn more about our community at the visitors table or explore humanism and ethics by borrowing from our lending library. As you move into the week ahead, may you approach others with openness and compassion and continue helping to build communities where people feel seen, supported, and welcomed as they are. Thank you for being here this morning. We look forward to seeing you again soon.